Hey, this is the last of the coffee houses, and this time I'm talking about literature, and this one's going to be pretty short. I didn't really get into this one. It's The Charterhouse of Parma by Stendhal. Published in 1839. It's about an Italian nobleman in the Napoleonic era. The name is Fabbrice del Dongo. And I don't know. It's just, he wants to join. I'm looking forward to The Red and the Black. I know Hemingway was big on The Red and the Black, and that's the one I always heard of, and that's the one, was in my collection when I was a kid. That was in there. But this one, not so much. But and I hope I'm saying, I don't speak Italian. Fabbrice is what I'm gonna say. He wants to join the Napoleon's army, but he kind of gets there for Waterloo, so it doesn't work out. Then he returns to Italy, and there's stuff going on. There's a bunch of, it was kind of described, I guess I can go into that, but just some more background. It was apparently written in 52 days. 52 days to write a whole novel that ends up being on the list of the greatest of all time. So that's pretty shocking. It's number 95? Yeah, 95. That's pretty impressive. Good job there. And Stendhal's his pseudonym. I don't remember what is Marie Henry something was his actual name. I should pay attention to this stuff. But analysis-wise, so it has, a number of descriptions of battle scenes. And I know one reviewer talked about it, saying that they really enjoyed the battle scenes because it really just talked about the bit of land in front of them. The writer of this particular review wasn't great, but I liked that phrasing of it. It was about the bit of land in front of them as opposed to just kind of it makes me think of Alexander by Oliver Stone, and the bird going over looking at the whole battle and how it took like an hour and a half just for the first battle, and the movie was like 4 hours long. God, that movie was awful. But anyway, so this particular reviewer was keen on the battle scene, so it has some battle scene descriptions, and Stendhal had some experience in the Napoleonic army, as far as I remember, so it makes sense that he'd have some details there. Then it goes into a lot of court politics. Stendhal was also previously a diplomat at some point, so it gets kind of deep into these ideas of what being a diplomat is about and the exigencies and intricacies of being a diplomat. And this particular book, The Charterhouse of Parma, is often cited as an early example of realism, which I feel like I see that a lot. And like so many books are claimed to be this is the beginning of realism, and realism so novel and new and all that, and I don't know. But some criticism in the New Yorker, this was just a little blurb about it. It wasn't even criticism. It was a new translation that came out. But it was written by Robert Boynton in 19 of the 99s. Quote, I thought that Stendhal, along with Shakespeare, Balzac, and Jane Austen, was the author you needed to read in order to know everything about life, end quote. He was quoting somebody, Sonnenberg, he was quoting. So it was Boynton quoting Sonnenberg saying that. So that's pretty high friggin' praise to know everything about life. Curious, okay, that's from the New Yorker. Like I said, the other critic talked about battle descriptions, how much he or she liked those. And so I read a number, I was trying to find some reviews of this, but it's not particularly talked about work. The ones I found, they were mostly just talking about how great, even when it was about the book, they were talking about how great Stendhal is, and they brought up The Red and the Black, so they didn't have a whole lot to say about this particular work. And it really didn't stand out to me. I think I remember some sequence, it was like this comedic thing where there's a horse and some people chasing him or something, and he's going up to the horse and they're on a bridge or so. I don't know. I know I didn't have much interest in it. So it's like and it's been described as a romantic thriller. He has a bunch of people. He has some trysts. He stays with his aunt. There's some, death here and there, and like I said, there's the court politics, and then he's going to be a friar or something, and he's working to be part of the church. And the Charterhouse of Parma is where he ends up, where he stays for like a few weeks before he dies. Spoilers. And it was, a lot of people described it as psychologically like astute or explorative or novel in the way that it treats characters, and I didn't get that at all. Like I don't know, it didn't seem all that astute to me. Kind of seemed generic structures and descriptions and that kind of stuff, which I don't know. Maybe I didn't read it closely enough, and it didn't help that, like, I was going through, because I read all these on my iPad, and I was going through and I couldn't find my version of this on my iPad, so I couldn't find my friggin' notes, like my highlights of quotes, or my, like, notes that I made about different, themes or whatever else in the book, so that could be impacting my ability to appreciate this work. But whatever the case, it didn't, and I freaking love the Napoleonic era. That was my emphasis in undergrad, in my history degree, so I love that era, but it just, I don't know. I mean, when it talked about Napoleon stuff, I was interested in that, but otherwise, it just didn't grab me much. I did get some quotes though, otherwise, and hopefully this won't happen again. I know there have been 2 of them so far where I lost my quotes and had to look some up. Here we've got a couple, so you can get an idea of the writing style, whether that would mesh, and the kind of ideas that it comes up with. Quote, "The lover thinks oftener of reaching his mistress than the husband thinks of guarding his wife. The prisoner thinks more often of escape than the jailer thinks of locking the doors. Therefore, in spite of every obstacle, the lover and the prisoner are certain to succeed." End quote. So it's kind of a fascinating idea, way to put it. I mean, you definitely have to think of, I love that dichotomy of the prisoner and the jailer, to think about the prisoner has much greater interest in getting out than the jailer does in keeping them in. It's a whole life thing for one, where it's a job thing for the other. So that's kind of fascinating. Quote, "This beautiful thought of dying close by that which one loves, expressed in 100 different ways, was followed by a sonnet in which it was found that the soul, separated after atrocious torments from the frail body in which it dwelled for 23 years, and impelled by that instinct for happiness natural to all that has once existed, would not reascend to heaven to mingle with angelic choirs as soon as it was set free, and in the event of the awful judgment according it forgiveness for its sins, but happier after death than it had been in life, it would go a few steps from the prison where it had lamented for so long, to be reunited with all that it had loved in the world." And thus the sonnet's last line went, "I shall have found my paradise on earth." End quote. Okay, general bigger thematics wise, I'm not sure how that fits in, but those are a couple. I didn't really see much more that really interested me when it came to the quotes. And I do think at some point I'll read this again, so after I read the Red and the Black, so I can see if I can pick more out of it, because I think I'm going to be more interested in the Red and the Black. But otherwise, I mean, that's this one. That's the Charterhouse of Parma. It's a setup, Napoleonic era, wants to be part of Napoleon's crew, ends up at Waterloo, after the 100 days, and that was that. He heads back to Italy, hangs out with his aunt, does some court politics stuff. I know he gets accused of something. He goes on trial. He ends up getting out. Maybe he escapes. There's a prison escape at some point. But yeah, that's the book, The Charterhouse of Parma. So that kind of thing. I mean, on the face of it, it sounds interesting. At least it just didn't grab me. But whatever, that one's that one. And so I guess I will see you in the next one. That was the Last Coffee House. All right, thanks.